This looks fake, but none of this is CGI. We trust cameras to show us the world as it really is. There are windows into reality, but what happens when that window shows us something that looks completely impossible? In this video, you'll see real moments caught on camera that look like glitches in the system, with no CGI, no tricks, and no editing. What you're about to see is real, even if it doesn't feel that way. Let's start with a phenomenon you might have seen online: forced perspective. You know, when someone looks like they're holding the sun in their hand or pushing over the Leaning Tower of Pisa, but these aren't just clever photo tricks. Sometimes real life creates its own forced perspective illusions that can seriously mess with your brain. Imagine seeing a giant ship that seems to be floating hundreds of feet above the ocean, sitting on top of another boat. Or a car that looks like it's the size of a toy, parked right next to a person who towers over it like a giant. These aren't Photoshop jobs. They're the result of atmospheric conditions, distance, and the perfect viewing angle all coming together. Your eyes see two objects, one far and one near, and your brain just can't correctly process the distance between them. It tries to place them on the same plane, creating a bizarre and unbelievable image. It's a natural optical illusion that makes you question what you're seeing. It's like reality is playing a prank on us, using nothing but light and distance. Next, have you ever looked up at the sky and seen a cloud that just doesn't look like a cloud? We're not talking about seeing shapes like dragons or faces. We're talking about clouds that look like solid, physical objects. One of the most stunning examples is the lenticular cloud. These UFO-shaped clouds often form over mountains and look so smooth and defined, you'd swear they were giant, metallic discs hovering in the sky. They don't drift and change shape like normal clouds. They stay in one place, looking perfectly sculpted. And then there are fall-streak holes, or hole-punch clouds. These look like someone took a giant cookie cutter and punched a perfect circle or ellipse out of a cloud layer. In the center, you can often see wispy trails of ice crystals falling, making it look like a gateway to another dimension just opened up in the sky. It happens when a section of the cloud gets supercooled and suddenly freezes, causing ice crystals to fall and leave a massive hole behind. It's a beautiful, yet eerie, reminder that the sky above us is a far more complex and dynamic place than we usually give it credit for. Alright, let's bring things back down to Earth, or maybe not. What about objects that seem to defy gravity, floating in midair with no visible support? You might have seen videos of a rock seemingly suspended above the ground, or a boat that appears to be hovering over the water. This isn't magic, it's often a rare and stunning mirage called a fata morgana. This complex illusion happens when there's a sharp temperature difference between the air near the ground or water and the air above it. Light rays get bent as they pass through these different layers of air, creating a distorted and often elevated image of a distant object. So that boat isn't actually floating, you're seeing its image projected above its real position. It's the same principle that makes a road look wet on a hot day. The brain interprets these bent light rays as a direct line of sight, leading to these mind-bending visuals. So the next time you see something floating, it might not be a glitch in your camera, but a glitch in the atmosphere itself. Speaking of mirages, let's talk about the most classic examples: shimmering pools of water in the desert or entire cities appearing on the horizon where there should be nothing but ocean. These aren't just hallucinations from heat stroke, they are real optical phenomena. The water on the road mirage, known as an inferior mirage, is caused by hot air near the ground bending the light from the sky downwards. Your brain sees the blue light from the sky on the ground and assumes it must be a reflection from water. It looks so convincing you could almost try to dive in, but superior mirages are even stranger. These occur in colder conditions, often over large bodies of water, where cold air is trapped beneath a layer of warmer air. This can make objects that are actually below the horizon, like a distant city or a ship, appear to be floating above it. There are historical accounts of sailors seeing entire ghost cities in the sky. It wasn't a fantasy, it was just the laws of physics creating a very convincing illusion. It proves that what we perceive as solid and real can sometimes be nothing more than bent light. Now for something that seems truly alive: ice. We think of ice as a solid, static thing, but have you ever seen hair ice? It's a rare type of ice that grows on dead wood, forming thin, silky strands that look exactly like white hair or cotton candy. It's not just frost. It's caused by a specific fungus inside the wood that pushes water out through tiny pores, freezing it into these delicate filaments. It's an almost magical-looking process. Then there are ice flowers, or frost flowers, which form on thin-stemmed plants in freezing conditions. As the sap in the stem freezes and expands, it cracks the stem and water is drawn out, freezing into incredible, paper-thin ribbons and petals that look like delicate glass flowers. And what about ice pancakes? These are circular disks of ice that form in very cold oceans or lakes with just the right amount of wave action. The slushy ice collides and forms these perfectly round, pancake-like shapes that bob on the surface. They make the water look like a giant, fantastical breakfast plate. These phenomena show us that even something as simple as frozen water can behave in complex and almost lifelike ways. Finally, let's step into the shadows. Shadows are supposed to be simple, right? They're just the absence of light. But sometimes they don't behave normally at all. Consider the Brocken specter. This is when an observer, standing on a high-altitude peak with the sun behind them, sees their own shadow cast onto the clouds or mist below. But it's not just a normal shadow. It's often a huge, looming figure surrounded by a rainbow-colored halo called a glory. It can be a truly unsettling sight, making you feel like you're being watched by some giant spectral being. Early mountain climbers were often terrified by this phenomenon. The illusion is caused by sunlight being diffracted by water droplets in the clouds. Another strange shadow effect happens during a solar eclipse. If you stand under a leafy tree, you'll see hundreds of tiny crescent-shaped shadows projected on the ground. Each gap between the leaves acts like a tiny pinhole camera, projecting an image of the crescent sun. It's a beautiful and unexpected side effect of a cosmic alignment, turning an ordinary sidewalk into a canvas of celestial art. Reality doesn't always behave the way we expect. These moments, caught by accident, show us a world that is far stranger and more wonderful than we can imagine. They remind us that there are incredible natural forces at play all around us, creating illusions that look like they're straight out of a science fiction movie. If these moments looked fake to you, the next video goes even deeper into reality's strangest glitches. We'll be exploring sounds that shouldn't exist and places where the laws of physics seem to take a vacation. Subscribe and keep questioning what you see. Thanks for watching.